My first duty station was Norfolk, Virginia, the big Navy station. And it's interesting the lessons you learn the hard way sometimes. I got the train tickets for us to Norfolk, but didn't arrange for a hotel. And we got on the train and going to Norfolk and talking to other people said, "Oh yeah, there's Norfolk housing is terrible. You don't have a reservation," and we didn't. And so we got there, and fortunately, one of the other couples from St. Thomas had a hotel, and we went with them and finally managed to get a hotel, and that got us started, and then in and out of Norfolk, various training programs. I had been assigned to destroyers and was going to commission a new ship, and so we went to DC for gunnery school, and fortunately Robin and I were there. She could travel with me, thank goodness. And we were there when Roosevelt died, so she got to stand on the curb and watch the presidential cortege and so on. And then we went to Gulfport, Mississippi, to recognition school for I think 6 weeks. So coming from Southern California, that was quite a change to get into the Deep South.
Yes.
And the still blacks only thing was going on. And coming from California, God, I went to school with black kids and had neighbors. And so that was, I made a point of going to the back of the bus, going from town to the Navy base to sort of say, hey, this isn't only black people back here. So let's see, DC, Gulfport. Oh, then finally, all that while we were putting together a crew, because this was a new ship. So, and we took them to Dam Neck, Virginia, which was a firing range to fire the 5-inch guns and the 20 millimeter. And that was our training. And then the ship was being commissioned in Orange, Texas. And so we traveled to Orange, Texas, and really the only reason for Orange was the shipyard where the ship was being built, and the only housing was, we called it a pasteboard village because it was apartment buildings that were almost cardboard, but alive with cockroaches. So, and of course that was new for us. And so I had to go into the shower and chase the cockroaches out before Robin could take a shower. And if we had any food left, we had to take a bottle and put the plate on top of the bottle because they couldn't get up there. So anyhow, that was quite an experience. And so we commissioned the ship and got underway. In the meantime, Robin wanted to be pregnant. She wanted to have something of me if I didn't come back. And so she was pregnant, and we got the ship went from Orange to Galveston into the yard there for a few days, and the wives all drove the captain's car from Orange to Galveston, and it was really odd because here's this 400-foot destroyer in this little creek almost, and the girls are all in the car on the road waving, and so we got to Galveston, and the war in Europe was ending then, and Galveston was a zoo, and there was no place. We couldn't get a hotel room, couldn't get anything to eat, and finally, and Robin had begun to miscarry, and so finally we found a doctor, and he put her in the hospital in Galveston. And of course, then the ship was going to leave.
What was the name of the ship, by the way?
Oh, the Floyd B. Parks.
The Floyd B. Parks. Okay.
Yeah, and a Gearing class destroyer, and so we were going to go to Guantanamo for shakedown.
Mm-hmm. What does that mean, a shakedown for shakedown?
Well, testing the ship.
In Guantanamo.
In Cuba, Guantanamo. Being sure everything works and getting the crew trained so they know how to use the guns and all the rest of the equipment, how to make the engines work and so on. And so it was quite a process.
And were you always concerned that you would be sent over to Europe at any time?
Oh, yeah. I felt at the time that because the war was essentially ending, that those ships and the Parks plus some others were commissioned after the war ended in Europe, that I felt that the war in the Pacific, these ships were all going to be a part of the invasion of the Japanese home islands. And at that time, the kamikaze, the airplanes that they flew and crashed into the ships were really a big issue, really big. And I thought that we would get into that. But then, thank God, Harry dropped a bomb, and that ended the Japanese war as well. And so we...
That's interesting. I've always wondered about the kamikaze and how much damage, if it really could...
Oh, yeah.
It could sink a ship.
Oh, yeah. Well, maybe more than one.
More than one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. My battle station was on the side of the bridge because I controlled the 20 millimeter and 40 millimeter guns on the starboard side. But I was really quite exposed if a kamikaze hit the bridge.
Of course.
That would be me. But fortunately, we didn't get involved in that, so that was great.
But that's where you would have been.
That's where I would have been. Now I'm building a model of the Parks, or not the Parks, a Gearing class destroyer that's about 12 inches long.
I'm sorry, the Gearing, can you tell me?
Gearing.
How do you spell that?
Gearing.
Okay, just like it sounds.
Gearing class. And the Parks was number 884.
And what does it mean by Gearing class?
The design. So different designs were named different classes.
Okay.
And weights, the displacement, the Gearing the well, the first of those designs was a Sumner, and it was 14 feet shorter, and they wanted to give the destroyer longer legs, longer cruising capability, so they added 14 feet to the hull, and that was for added fuel. And then that was called a gearing, and not a Sumner anymore. It's very similar, but longer.
Okay.
So when I went on the original crew, because I had gone to recognition school in Gulfport, Mississippi, my original assignment was the recognition officer. So when we would have been in battle, my job would have been to separate or to define enemy aircraft as opposed to our own, which might both be out there at the same time, and to recognize enemy ships as well as our own ships.